Hi, good evening and welcome back to today's Roznama. This is our traditional newspaper analysis session, but since all of the newspapers are absolutely chock full of news stories about the budget, we thought that today's newspaper analysis will be solely dedicated to the budget. Okay, so with that in mind, we are beginning today with a deep dive on the Union Budget 2026-2027. Okay, now how have we structured this? What we've done is we've taken out extracts of the Union Budget speech, highlighted. By the way, if you want a highlighted copy of the budget speech, which is only referring to the important topics for your exam, you can log into the Roznama at clatpossible.com and access that copy for absolutely free. Okay, so we've added excerpts of the speech. Then we've gone on to extract the related newspaper articles in the next few slides. Okay, and so that is the pattern of discussion that we will follow. So let's make a quick start. Our very first slide here is just to give you a little bit of a structural idea about the budget. As you know, the budget was presented by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. As you all already know, she is not the first female finance minister. However, certain sources describe her as the first female full-time finance minister. Okay, so please keep that distinction in mind. Has she presented the most number of budgets in Indian history? No. That is Morarji Desai, former Prime Minister of India, who presented a total of 10 budgets. However, Nirmala Sitharaman has now presented her 9th budget. And not only her ninth consecutive budget. This is a record. No other finance minister of India has presented these many budgets in a row consecutively. Okay, now a quick flag on this year. If you don't know, this stands for the financial year. So the budget which was just presented was for the financial year 2026-27. That is to say, from 1st of April 26 till the 31st of March 27. Okay, you would all have, of course, noted the date, the 1st of February. By chance, this year, it was also the 50th Coast Guard Raising Day. So that is an important piece of news. Second, this is the first time in Indian history that the budget has been presented on a Sunday. And third of all, it was also Ravidas Jayanti. Okay, in fact, one of the airports in Punjab was renamed after Sant Ravidas. We will take a look at that possibly at the end of this video. Okay, now let us have a look at the structure of the budget. This is why I have extracted the index of the budget. Now, the budget overall is divided into two portions, Part A and Part B. Part A deals with the substantive policy announcements along with details about the fiscal deficit, devolution, finance commission, the estimates for expenses as well as receipts, and all of the other schemes that form a part of the budget. All of that comes in Part A. What comes in Part B for Bombay? You get the details of the proposals relating to direct and indirect taxes. The classic example of a direct tax is an income tax. The classic example of an indirect tax is goods and services tax or GST. Now, when it comes to Part A, the initial portions laid out a bit of a vision. So there were 3 kartavyas or duties which were flagged. It was said to be oriented towards Yuva Shakti or youth power. There was also a mention of the Reform Express, which was just an enumeration of the various reforms undertaken over the past few years. Then the proposals of the budget were divided into 3 kartavyas or duties. The first kartavya related to acceleration and sustenance of economic growth. The second kartavya dealt with fulfilling aspirations of the people and building capacity. This second kartavya dealt with the human element of things. And finally, the third kartavya was about quote unquote sabka saath sabka vikas. So it dealt with special policies relating to Divyangjan, the mentally ill and other sections of the population. Okay. And finally, the details were given about the numbers. So we will go through it in this order. So we have subdivided the speech like this, and we have subdivided all the articles from the Hindu and the Indian Express in this manner as well. Okay. This image I really liked from the Hindu, so I just wanted to display it for all of you. Moving on, some of the details I have already mentioned, but I just wanted to flag for you these first 2 points. This slide is basically from the Roznama in the top 5 news, but I wanted to extract it here for you. It is Article 112 of the Constitution that deals with the annual financial statement or AFS. There is no provision of the Constitution which directly has a provision for the union budget. But Article 112 relating to the annual financial statement is the one which comes closest. Actually, the annual financial statement is a document that is attached along with the budget. Okay, so this is something you have to remember. Second, you need to know the full form of the FRBM Act, the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act of 2003. This is the statutory scheme which governs the presentation of the union budget. It also provides specific details about fiscal deficit targets and other related issues. Okay, so those things are absolutely important for you to remember. The remaining details I have flagged for you on the previous page. Let us now have a look at some of the key terminologies which will come up during our discussion.
The first one here is CAPEX, which is an abbreviation for capital, and this X stands for expenditure. All right. Now, capital expenditure or CAPEX actually forms always the basic crux of the budget, because it is this particular expenditure which gives the basis to infrastructure development in the country. All right. So here CAPEX implies capital in the sense all those goods, machineries, etc., which aid in the development of a country. And expenditure, naturally, all the expenditure that the government is going to align for the construction, establishment, installation, institution of this particular capital. So all the expenditure, budgetary estimates that the government aligns for the development, construction of railways, roadways, defense, etc., comes under the term of CAPEX or capital expenditure. Then coming to the next one is fiscal deficit. Now, whenever the government outlines the budget, a budget is always an estimate on the total amount of revenue that the government is going to generate, that is the total amount of receipts that the government is going to get, the total amount of money that the government is going to get. And depending on that total estimated amount of money that the government is going to get, the government outlines how much of it is the government going to expend or spend in the entire year under various heads and sectors. All right. So naturally, whenever we look at the budget, we estimate the revenue is always a little slightly less as compared to everything that the government seeks to spend in the entire year. This time, I believe that there is a percentage higher. The revenue is a percent point higher as compared to whatever they've estimated to expend the entire year. All right. Okay. So fiscal deficit is the difference between the government's estimated revenue or everything that the government is believing to receive the entire year minus or subtracting the entire expenditure that the government is going to do in the entire year. All right. So fiscal deficit simply the revenue of the government minus the expenditure of the government. GDP to debt ratio. Now GDP, as you all know, is the value of all the final goods and services that the government produces, that the country produces in one financial year, inclusive of everything that is produced within the country as well as Indian nationals living outside the country. Okay. And debt is everything that the government borrows to manage the expenditure throughout the year. All right. So debt to GDP ratio is the ratio of the country's GDP as well as the government's debt. All right. Then devolution. In the previous slide, we did see the 16th Finance Commission. Now, this Finance Commission decides the amount of money that is going to be divided from the center or given from the center to various states, and they basically outline criterias. Like this year we have 6 basic criterias on the basis of which the total amount of money that is to be given to each state is decided. So this process through which the central government gives out money or aligns certain percentage of money from the total amount decided to each and every state in the country is known as devolution. All right. And the last term, naturally, direct versus indirect tax. Direct taxes are everything that the government directly collects in the from income tax, etc. And indirect taxes are taxes which are aligned with goods, services like GST tax in the country. Okay. All right. Then coming to the next bit. Now we begin with the budget, and the first this time the budget had these 2 basic ideas. The vision of the budget was laid through Yuva Shakti driven budget, that is the government is going to work upon developing human capital in the country, specifically the younger population, and Reform Express, through which they basically outlined everything that the government did in the last 1 year and everything that the government seeks to do in this another 1 year. All right. Then the budget was prepared in the Kartavya Path. Now the government is trying to de-anglicize the country. So previously the Rajpath, Raj Bhavan, that was known as the Delhi capital region. Now it has been renamed as Kartavya Bhavan. All right. So it was prepared there, and the first budget prepared there. Then the government has outlined 3 basic kartavyas this year. So you all can go through the kartavyas, and a more concise form can be understood as the first one being to accelerate and sustain economic growth. They've outlined around 7 visions under this. The second kartavya being to fulfill aspirations and build capacity, that is to undertake human development in the country. And the third one is to ensure certain schemes, etc., which to undertake certain schemes, etc., which ensure a holistic development covering special cases, vulnerable, women empowerment, Divyangjan, etc. Okay. Then quickly moving to the first kartavya or part A. So this gives you a basic, concise idea as to what the government seeks to do under the first kartavya.
All right. So, as I said, we have a summary slide for each of the kartavyas, following which we'll show you what the actual budget speech looked like, following which we'll show you the news articles which have covered these kartavyas in today's newspaper. Okay, so that's the structure we are following. You already saw the meaning of the first kartavya or the first duty. Whose duty? Of course, the government's duty. So there are 6 main points here, and then a few miscellaneous points which come at the end. So the 6 main points, let's just have a look at the top line headings which are underlined here. The first point under the first duty is the scaling up of manufacturing in 7 strategic and frontier sectors. What kinds of sectors? Biopharma, semiconductors, rare earths, container manufacturing, chemical parks, construction, textiles, Okay, so these are the kinds of strategic sectors that are being spoken of in this first heading. Then we have the second heading, which relates to rejuvenation of 200 legacy industrial clusters. So these are institutions or entities which already exist. Okay, so it is about rejuvenation or infusing new energy into something that already exists. That is the meaning of the word rejuvenate. Okay, the third one we have here is about MSMEs. So if you don't know, MSME stands for micro, small and medium enterprise. So various measures are outlined in order to support MSMEs in the country. The fourth one is about a push to infrastructure. This is one of the most significant ones. This is where we learn about capex or the capital expenditure, which has risen now to 12.2 lakh crore rupees. Of course, this also includes dedicated freight corridors, new national waterways, and so on and so forth. Don't worry, we are going to cover these in detail one by one. The fifth is about energy security, about carbon capture, utilization, and storage. And finally, the sixth heading under the first Kartavya is about city economic regions, which includes, you might have seen in today's newspaper, one of the big headlines was about the new high-speed rail corridors. So this is something we find under the sixth heading. Okay, so let me quickly take you to the actual announcement. Okay, so under the first Kartavya, these images depict the promises. Okay, under the first Kartavya, under the first point of that Kartavya, scaling up manufacturing in 7 strategic and frontier sectors. I'm going to give you a quick summary, after which ma'am is going to take you through the articles which were published today. So number one, as I mentioned, is about biopharma. For your exam, the full form of biopharma Shakti will be important. The strategy for healthcare advancement through knowledge, technology, and innovation, right? Till the government is around, we are going to have to learn more and more short forms. So please be ready for that. Those of you who are, who have been preparing for a while already know this. If you're just starting, get ready to begin learning lots of abbreviations. Okay. Second is the launch of the India Semiconductor Mission 2.0. Then we have an increase in the outlay of the electronics components manufacturing scheme. There is a proposal to establish dedicated rare earth corridors, 3 dedicated chemical parks. Then related to capital goods capabilities, we have a scheme for enhancement of construction and infrastructure equipment, a scheme for container manufacturing. There is a 5-pronged effort relating to the textile sector. So this is going to be a 5-pronged integrated textile program. And finally is the launch of the Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative. This is the only mention of the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, in the budget. And this is a new initiative which is going to focus on khadi and handloom products. Okay, so this is the summary of the first prong of the first Kartab. All right, now ma'am is going to take you through the important articles in the paper related to this.
Now, before we actually begin on to the first Kartavya, to make this, to remember this, to make remembering this a little easy for you, what you have to focus on and how you have to relate it is, there was a report, a Niti Aayog report, which had highlighted that the total contribution of the manufacturing sector, okay, the total contribution of the manufacturing sector, that is the secondary sector of the economy, is only 15 to 17% to the GDP. All right. Now, since last year, the government has been focusing on the manufacturing sector Last year, the government in the budget of 2025 had outlined a mission, and the proper structure of that mission was brought in only in November last year. Okay. So the mission was National Manufacturing Mission. And under that mission, the government seeks to streamline the manufacturing processes as well as the manufacturing sector of the country. And if you remember, government has a scheme which is known as PM Mitra parks, through which the government seeks to, outline massive areas, contiguous areas for development of textile parks, again associated with the manufacturing sector. All right. So all of this, if you look at it, is only highlighted and streamlined to increase the total share of GDP of the manufacturing sector to the GDP from 15 to 17% to a total of 25%. This has been mentioned in one of the articles also. So keep in mind that a lot of work this year has been done surrounding the manufacturing sector. Another thing that you have to keep in mind with respect to the manufacturing sector and how you have to remember it is that when we talk about things like dedicated freight corridors, like here, when we talk about things like dedicated freight corridors, so dedicated freight corridors simply imply that the government is going to lay down railway lines connecting one manufacturing hub to another, and this particular rail line is only going to be carrying goods from one industrial hub to another and not passengers. So the term freight here implies goods. All right. So they're going to take goods from one place to another. And why is it called dedicated? Because it is not going to do anything else and without any stoppage. So it is going to be a high rail speed connectivity system, which is going to provide access to variety of goods in a quick, speedy manner. All right. So this is all undertaken to give a major boost to the manufacturing sector. Container manufacturing, that is the containers which undertake cargo shipment from India to outside countries, etc. All right. And another thing with respect to the manufacturing sector is that the government this year, the first Kartavya was only associated with manufacturing. All right. So keep in mind that manufacturing is going to play a major role this year, and a major step has already been undertaken in the manufacturing sector through the recently signed European Union India Free Trade Agreement. All right. So keep these pointers in mind. It will become a little more easy for you to understand the budget this way. Okay. Then quickly moving on to the first piece of article today. Now, the first pointer only was on Biopharma Shakti. Why has this Biopharma Shakti been mentioned otherwise? Because now government, India has this one major vision to become a developed country by 2047. And the pharmaceutical sector can give this major impetus to India. All right. How? India is one of the top third, fourth pharmaceutical manufacturing country in the world. And also we lie in the top 10 countries who undertake massive export of pharmaceuticals from India to outside countries. And again, this pharmaceutical sector has further been given a push through the European Union Free Trade Agreement. Because if you remember, just a few days back, there was this major article that said that a lot of raw materials that India actually imports in terms of pharmaceutical sector, India imports from the European Union only. And mostly all of those raw materials have been exempted from duties. All right. So that again is going to give a major impetus to the biopharma sector in the country. All right. And not only is the government trying to set up or undertake this, give it a major push through building a impressive ecosystem that is going to enhance India's domestic production. India has also talked about setting up 3 new national institutes of pharmaceutical education and research. All right. So again, this is an abbreviation. So keep in mind the full form of this particular abbreviation. Along with that, also talks to bring about infrastructural improvement in terms of the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization. Okay. Then the second bit that was outlined here was the Semiconductor Mission 2.0. The first one, the Semiconductor Mission 1.0, was launched in 2021, and that proved to be a massive success. India did undertake a lot of conferences, a lot of partnerships with the major semiconductor producing countries like Taiwan, South Korea, and this year we had the fourth a semiconductor conference that we undertook, and also India undertook the development of Vikram processor 3201 chip processor semiconductor, which was a major feat under the Semiconductor Mission 1.0. So taken inspiration from the same thing, the government has launched Semiconductor Mission 2.0 and also doubled the entire outlay that was previously given under Semiconductor Mission 1.0. All right. Then coming to the next one also aligns with itself with the Semiconductor Mission 2.0. And for when we talk about the first one, the first Indian semiconductor mission only talked about establishing infrastructure for semiconductor development in the country. Okay, the first mission talked about setting up of infrastructure in the country. The second one is now, focusing more on producing equipments and materials, as well as also undertaking more innovations in terms of semiconductor, giving a major push to Indian intellectual properties. And then naturally it will also aid to India's entire stance in the global supply chains of semiconductors. All right, so this article gives you the pros and cons of the semiconductor mission. Then another major outline was on the rare earth element corridor or chain that has been talked about. All right, so rare earth corridor has been proposed, and this rare earth mineral corridor has been proposed in 4 major South Indian states: Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and here Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. Now, the purpose of this is that these southern states, they are rich in these rare earth minerals. All right, and one of the major rare earth minerals is monazite. Monazite sands are found in abundance in Kerala. All right, so through this rare earth mineral corridors, the government is trying to and has outlined this major vision and map to harness these critical minerals. And what do these critical minerals aid in? They again aid in our semiconductor development, in chip development, everything that is in vogue in the present days, aiding in the artificial intelligence sector, and also it is going to aid in the entire machine learning dynamics. All right, so this is what you have to keep in mind with respect to this. Please keep in mind the name of the 4 states that are important. Okay, and also critical minerals form the basis of transitioning from non-renewable sources of energies to renewable sources of energies. So we know that India is trying to harness more and more renewable sources of energies of late. All right, so this is the Hindu article. The previous one was from the Indian Express, and this article also says the same thing, that why are we seeking to develop this, so that our entire dependence on Chinese imports in terms of critical minerals and rare earth minerals is reduced. Right now, maximum import that India undertakes in terms of critical minerals, we undertake it from China. All right, so we naturally want to cut it down. So we are trying to develop these rare earth corridors. So keep in mind the 4 states where we are undertaking its development. All right. Okay. Then the next article again just basically talks about that through this entire initiative of Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative, and upgrade to MSME sector, developing 200 industrial or legacy industrial clusters. Now, legacy industrial clusters meaning that such industrial regions, such industrial bases which have been in existence in India for many years, but have somehow become technologically inadept or have somehow become technologically backward or outdated. So instead of, setting up new industries, taking in more land and maybe aiding to our carbon footprint, the government has outlined a good brownfield plan where the government seeks to undertake development of the already pre-developed industrial regions in the country, and along with that obviously talks about giving a major boost to the handloom and khadi sector through Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative. Please keep this in mind. And why is allocated around 10,000 crore for this for the next 5 years? Again, keep in mind major boost to manufacturing sector, which is a major labor intensive sector, so that we can see a rise in our total contribution of the manufacturing sector in the country's GDP. Okay. Then this was a viewpoint. It was an editorial article on the initiatives taken under the first Kartavya with respect to the Biopharma Shakti initiative, with respect to development of rare earth permanent magnet scheme, with the initiative of rare earth corridors, the India Semiconductor Mission 2.0, taking cue from the first mission in the country, and then proposals for mega textile parks and Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative. All right. So these are the various things that you have to keep in mind with respect to the first pointer of the first Kartavya. All right. Biopharma Shakti, rare earth permanent magnets initiative, rare earth corridors, India Semiconductor Mission 2.0, and mega textile parks and Mahatma Gandhi Gram Swaraj initiative. Okay. Okay. Then also the government seeks to bring about a major push to the clean energy sector. And again, why is this article interrelated? Is for one reason that the green energy sector mostly draws from rare earth elements, from critical minerals. So rare earth elements, for rare earth elements, we've already drawn a basic structure out of it. We've already brought in a scheme. The second thing is that last year the government launched one mission which was known as the National Nuclear Mission. Okay, the National Nuclear Mission naturally is will be in place till 2033, and also last year in December the government has brought in the Shanti Bill as well. All right. So aligning with these two initiatives, more money has been aligned under the budget to give a major push to the clean energy sector or the green energy sector. All right. So keep in mind the National Nuclear Mission. Under the National Nuclear Mission, the government seeks to develop at least 50% of our renewable energy, or harness 50% of our total renewable energy from nuclear sources by 2030. And the government also seeks to develop 5 small modular reactors by 2033. And other than that, the government also talks about the Shanti initiative, the Shanti Bill that has been proposed last year. So Shanti Bill, again, the full form is important: Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India Act. And under the Shanti Bill, the government proposes that till now the nuclear sector or the atomic energy sector, which was only under the ambit of the government, will now be open to the private sector as well. So the government has invited private participation in nuclear energy. Okay. And under the National Nuclear Mission, the government had last year announced 20,000 crore rupees alignment to it. All right. So this is everything that it talks about with respect to the new and renewable energy. Okay. Then coming to the infrastructure bit with respect to the first Kartavya, giving a major boost to the manufacturing sector. This also is a viewpoint which gives you a detailed input into as to how the government is as to how the India Semiconductor Mission going to give a major boost to the manufacturing sector in the country. All right. So these are good articles. Please make sure that you go through them to get a basic understanding. All right. This particular article also is a continuation from the last one only. And this article simply seeks to tell us that the government is also trying to, give a major boost to the production linked incentive in terms of semiconductor. So production linked incentives simply imply in when we talk about manufacturing units, that the government is going to incentivize. It can be incentivization in terms of giving subsidies, it can be incentivization in terms of giving more money, can be incentivization in terms of in other monetary terms as well. So incentivization with respect to production simply implies that as and how any particular manufacturing unit starts producing goods which result in major profits for the government is going to incentivize such production units. So that is what PLI means. I just wanted to flag the term PLI for you. Okay, that as and how any production unit, it increases its production. In similar manner, more and more incentivization is provided to that particular sector. Okay. Then again, on a similar line, this particular article also, the previous article was from the Hindu, this article was from the Indian Express, and this also just gives you a basic idea as to how Biopharma Shakti is going to aid the pharmaceutical sector. And under the same mission, the government seeks to develop 3 new national institutes of pharmaceutical education and research. All right. Then again, like I told you all, that the major contribution of the manufacturing sector to the country's GDP is only a meager 15 to 17%, which the government seeks to increase to over 25% by 2047. And this article also draws a contrast as to how our neighboring countries only, like South Korea, China, etc., their manufacturing sector are contributing to around 25 to 30% already. So India is way behind. And not only this can be aided or increased not only by establishing new manufacturing units, but also by reviving or bringing about changes in the already established industrial regions in the country. All right. So to do that, the government has sought to revive 20 legacy industrial clusters. Legacy simply implies that previously who were doing well, but now due to maybe outdated machines, etc., is not doing so well.
All right. So that covers 2 separate sections of the first Kartavya. Now let's come to the third section of the first Kartavya. So the third section is about MSMEs, or micro, small and medium enterprises. So the way they have titled it here is to say creating champion SMEs and supporting micro enterprises. So the word used here is champions. So just keep that in mind. Now, how do they propose to help create champion SMEs? Through 3 kinds of support. Number 1, through equity support. Number 2, through liquidity support. And number 3, through professional support. So when it comes to equity support, what is being spoken about? The introduction of a new fund. Now, when a fund is created, basically the government is infusing money into this fund, and then the fund as an entity would allocate parts of that fund to various different enterprises and schemes. Okay, so the proposal here is to create an SME growth fund. Okay, and how much will the government contribute to this? 10,000 crore rupees. Okay, second, they also want to top up the Self-Reliant India Fund, which is already in existence, with 2,000 crore rupees. The second kind of support which is proposed here is liquidity support. You should just know the meaning of liquidity. It is simply about availability of money or cash in order to finance the activities of an organization or entity, here the MSME entities. The details of this are not relevant for you for CLAT. Okay, if you are a civil services aspirant, perhaps you might need to go into it, but not as a CLAT aspirant. The final bit is professional support, and here the proposal is to create a new cadre of corporate mitras, right? You might have seen there have been several schemes like this of, if you think about Anganwadi workers or other programs where a core of people is trained and paid to assist the public with various schemes. A similar idea here is corporate mitras, which will aid MSME entities in navigating not only the financial aspects but also the regulatory aspects. Okay, so that is the third point, which is part of the first kartavya.
Now, articles aligning with this, that is promoting the small and medium enterprises growth or MSME growth, you just have to keep in mind that the government has proposed to introduce a dedicated 10,000 crore fund to bring about the growth of these sectors. All right. They've also aligned certain previous initiatives only with the same thing. No new initiatives have been brought in, like the TREADS platform is an old one, the credit guarantee support mechanism, again, the government e-marketplace, they were all old initiatives. Just to upgrade it and to add more budgetary alignments to it, the announcements have been made as such. All right. That is all that you have to keep in mind with respect to this.
The next section is actually quite significant. This is the part which deals with infrastructure. So this is the fourth point within the first kartavya, and here there are several important points. Okay, now some of these top things which I have highlighted at the top is they are simply there so that you can know the full forms: REITs, INVITs, NIIF, and NABFID. Okay, so REITs and INVITs are essentially investment vehicles. REITs stand for Real Estate Investment Trusts. The idea is lots of people can pool their money together in a real estate investment trust and then invest in a single property or a whole portfolio of property. Similarly, you have the Infrastructure Investment Trusts or INVITs. Okay, so these are simply for you to know the full forms. One of the few figures that you have to remember from the budget is the one that you see here. As we have discussed, the meaning of capex is capital expenditure. Here, when they say public capex, meaning the capital expenditure made by the government or its entities, financed by the government. So you have to know this figure, that public capital expenditure is proposed to be increased to 12.2 lakh crore rupees in the coming financial year, that is 2026 to 2027. So this number is significant. It's a rise of 1 lakh crore over the previous year. Some of the other proposals relate to an infrastructure risk guarantee fund, the creation of new dedicated freight corridors from Dankuni to Surat, operationalization of 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years. National waterways, which ma'am might talk about a little more, those essentially are navigation over primarily river systems. Okay. Finally, there is also a coastal cargo promotion scheme. Okay. So these are the important points when it comes to the infrastructure aspect of the first kartavya. Okay, now over to ma'am for a discussion of the articles.
All right. Now, just you need to remember the figures and nothing else with respect to capex. All right. The meaning of capex I've already discussed with you all. That capital expenditure, any expenditure that is made to undertake development of infrastructure in the country. The infrastructure can be railways, roadways, waterways, industries, anything. Defense also comes under the same. Last year, the total budgetary expenditure, capex expenditure was 11.2 lakh crores. This year, it has been increased to 12.2 lakh crores. So keep that in mind. Coming to the next one, Okay, now under this they have talked about establishment of a dedicated fleet corridor, which I'll take up in the consecutive articles. Here they've talked about undertaking seaplane operations. Now this is not something that they have outlined or brought about for the first time in this budget. It was outlined previously in the Udan scheme. Okay. So Udan is an initiative which was launched by the government in 2016, which was formally brought into existence in 2017 only. So Udan is an abbreviation again. Udan stands for Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. Right now, presently, we are running into Udan 5.5. Okay, Udan 5.5 is going on right now. And under Udan, what the government was trying to do was that government was trying to, undertake, make flying affordable for people who belong to lower income groups. All right. So, under this Udan scheme, not only did they cover aircraft, but they also eventually started covering helicopters and now seaplane operations as well. So seaplane operations did not begin with as of now, but now the government has streamlined that anybody who undertakes manufacturing of training aircraft and seaplane operations, they will be incentivized for doing the same. All right. And what is the incentivization? The incentivization is removal of 7.5 to 15% basic customs duty on seaplane components, etc. जो previously थी अब नहीं, अब हटा दी जाएगी if anybody undertakes these operations, seaplane manufacturing, etc. Okay, then coming to the next one, this talks about two things that you have to keep in mind. One, a new dedicated freight corridor which is going to connect Dakuni in the east, which is in West Bengal, to Surat in the west, which is in Gujarat. All right, dedicated freight corridor meaning that a particular rail track that will only be dedicated to carrying goods, raw materials from one industrial region to another industrial region, all right, across the country. Not only raw materials, but also manufactured finished products, which is going to aid to India's exporting agency, all right. Okay, then also the second thing that you have to keep in mind that the government has talked about bringing into existence and operationalize 20 new national waterways, all right, 20 new national waterways. As of now, we have National Waterway 1 and National Waterway 2, which are working, all right. National Waterway 3 has also commenced operations. 4 and 5 are under construction. 4 must have been is almost on the verge of being completed, whereas the 5th one the government has laid special emphasis, which is on the Brahmani Mahanadi river track, and the government seeks to make this operational effectively this year, and also talks about bringing into operation, into working conditions, 20 new national waterways. Now, national waterways meaning that the government seeks to make the rivers in the country navigable to transport goods as well as people. What is the benefit of making or using waterways as a mode of transport? Is that waterways are the cheapest mode of transportation. Okay, so इसीलिए government wants to harness these into the transport region. All right, then National Waterway 1, just a brief idea about it. This is the longest national waterway in the country, a total distance of 1620 kilometers, that is 1620 kilometers, and this runs on Ganga, Bhagirathi and Hooghly rivers. All right, National Waterway 2 is on Brahmaputra river, and the third one is along the coastline. Okay, all right, then coming to the next bit, which again talks about high-speed rail freight, that is the dedicated freight corridors, and also talks about developing 7 high-speed rail corridors between several city corridors. So they are going to be 717 connecting Mumbai, Pune, Pune, Hyderabad, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Chennai, Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, Varanasi, and Siliguri. All right. So these are 7 new ones that they're proposing. Again, high-speed rail corridors, mostly to aid the manufacturing sector in the country. And the next thing that you have to keep in mind, this particular rare earth mineral corridor that it seeks to develop, this is again centered around the same 4 southern states that we talked about previously. The 4 states being Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and Kerala. All right, because they believe that these regions are very rich in minerals which have not been harnessed effectively. Why is the government focusing on this? Again, remember that these are very valuable inputs, raw materials for battery manufacturing, for clean energy manufacturing, and India relies on China for these raw materials. Okay. Then the next one, again, it's the same article from a different newspaper, which talks about increasing the country's total capex to 12.22%. And this is going to, for this, and also it talks about the various regions where this capital expenditure is undertaken. One being the road transport sector. The second highest has been aligned to the railways, and defense expenditure has been under capital expenditure. Defense expenditure is the third highest. Okay, so this is it for this that you have to keep in mind. Again, just a viewpoint of somebody else, which talk about that railways and highways, that is roadways and railways, they continue to be the primary drivers of capital expenditure.
All right. So now I think we come to the 5th point under the first kartavya. Stay tuned. I know it can be a little bit cumbersome, but if you go through this video, I think we will be able to guarantee to you that there is nothing else you need to do for your exam from the union budget. So the 5th point is about CCUS, or carbon capture, utilization and storage. Okay, so for this purpose, a total outlay of 20,000 crores has been proposed over the next 5 years. This is something to keep in mind. Many of the proposals made in the budget are over a period of time. So while the overall number looks a little bit flashy, remember it is to be divided over a period of usually 5 years. In fact, there's one which we will see for a particular industry. A tax break has been given till 2047. It's a tax holiday. So we'll have a look at that later. But just remember, over how many years is an important thing. So this you can link to what? You can link to the topic of the environment. Okay. Now, you may remember that in the economic survey, there were several parts which seem to downplay the importance of climate change, the danger of climate change. In fact, the economic survey said something like it does not pose the risk of civilizational collapse. Now, just think about it. That is such a high standard to talk about, as if we will not face problems short of civilizational collapse. But anyway, just keep in mind there is very little which has been mentioned in the budget when it relates to climate change and the problems and risks of global warming, as well as broader climate change in general. So this is the 5th point relating to the first kartavya. We are now rounding out the first kartavya. Now what you see on the screen is the 6th point, the last major heading under the first kartavya. What is that? That is about city economic regions. Okay. So basically till here, this is where the 6 headings end, and what is after that is some of the miscellaneous topics when it comes to the first kartavya. The 6th broad heading related to the city economic regions, where the government proposes an allocation of 5,000 crores per city economic region over a period of 5 years. Okay. So there are 2 pers there, and what is really important, which I think ma'am covered in one of the articles, is the creation of high-speed rail corridors as growth connectors between the big cities of the country If you see these, you will see the IT hub, you will see the financial capital Mumbai, IT hub Hyderabad, right? You will see several coastal towns, right? So all of these are dedicated towards helping not just broader economic growth in city regions, but also to help movement of goods as well as people across the country. Some of the miscellaneous points: one is the high level committee on banking for Vikasit Bharat to overhaul the banking sector as a whole. There are also some miscellaneous news items about municipal bonds. Okay, so ma'am is going to take a look at a few of these with you in the next few slides, where various articles have been mentioned. So let's now move ahead to that. The biggest one, as I already mentioned, are the 7 city economic regions, including Surat, Varanasi, Vizag, etc., etc. These are cities which are projected to benefit under this prong of the first Kartavya.
Okay, so this is something that I had outlined in the previous ones also. And just one more thing that you have to keep in mind, that the government seeks to also develop city economic regions and regional medical hubs. All right, medical hubs, because right now in the previous articles we did talk about biopharma Shakti, where the government seeks to develop the pharmaceutical sectors and also seeks to bring about 3 pharmaceutical universities, colleges, etc. So keeping in line with the same idea, the government is also trying to develop regional medical hubs and also to promote medical tourism in the country. All right, and this will be undertaken through an entire sphere of 5 years. Along with this, when we talk about city economic regions, so economic regions cover everything with respect to economic activities. It can be medical tourism, it can be other forms of tourism as well. So to promote that other form of tourism, the government is focusing on developing tier 2 and tier 3 cities and even temple towns with modern infrastructure and amenities, just to promote tourism in these regions. All right, here they have just talked about outlining a little more money to the already existent schemes in the country, that is street vendors scheme, Atmanirbharta Nidhi, that is PM Swanidhi, through which the government seeks to extend loans to the street vendors who do not have access to loans, and also alignment of more money to Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, development of housing facilities for people. Again, this talks about the same 7 rail corridors which the government has now talked about establishing, linking all of these countries: Bombay, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, Varanasi. Then coming to the second Kartavya. The second Kartavya again highlights, now this particular topic talks about development of human capital in the country. So when we talk about human capital, we talk about things like education, we talk about things like health. All right, health and education always form the 4 pillars of human capital development in the country. All right, so to facilitate development of education, they've talked about establishing a high-powered education to employment and enterprise standing committee. This committee is basically going to align academics to industry. Okay, is basically going to align academics to industry as well as artificial intelligence. All right, and care economy here talks about developing whichever type of medical facilities that we have in the country, taking cue from Ayush. The government seeks to undertake development of Ayush facilities in the country, 5 regional medical hubs, upgradation of the WHO Global Traditional Medicine Center, which was inaugurated 2-3 years back in Jamnagar, and also talks about township universities, hospitality, etc. Then it talks about undertaking or hosting the first global Big Cat Summit. This Big Cat Summit was for the first time proposed by the Prime Minister on the 50th anniversary of Project Tiger in 2023. Then it was given a formal structure in 2024. And last year in 2025, India was chosen as the president. And from India, we had Bhupendra Yadav, our Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, as the first president of IPCA. And this year, India is set to host the first global Big Cat Summit in the country. Okay.
All right. So next, now it's time to take a look at the summary of the second Kartavya. So in the last slide, we already saw the creation of this high-powered Education to Employment and Enterprise Standing Committee, whose goal, of course, is to reorient the education system. Not just that, see how education has to respond to artificial intelligence and various other things. If you think about it, the economic survey had also flagged that we needed a new committee or commission to look at how artificial intelligence would impact employment in the country. So you can link up these two topics with each other as well. Then we have, under the health topic, we have existing institutions for allied health professionals will be upgraded. So who are allied health professionals? So basically people other than the doctors, that is to say the nursing staff, the paramedical staff, people working in physical rehabilitation. There is a patchwork of councils and commissions which currently oversee these various allied healthcare professions. The idea is to consolidate it, strengthen it, and upgrade it. The overall meaning of the word care ecosystem is certainly important and needs to be remembered. Next, we have the proposal relating to 5 regional medical hubs, where all the burden is not borne by the center. It's a scheme basically to support states in establishing 5 regional medical hubs. Under Ayush, please remember the full form: A for Ayurveda and naturopathy, Y for yoga, U for Unani, S for Siddha or Sova Rigpa, and H for homeopathy. Okay, so always remember this full form. As you know, there are international days related to yoga. That one is recognized by the UN as well. Okay, moving on, we have the establishment of 3 new All India Institutes of Ayurveda. We have the upgradation of the Jamnagar WHO Global Traditional Medicine Center. A very important word, okay? Please remember, when it comes to the budget, CLAT is likelier to ask you about concepts and scheme names and full forms rather than the numbers. There are 5 or 6 numbers that you actually have to remember, like capex, fiscal deficit, the total expenditure and revenue, or perhaps defense because of its recent importance. But other than that, concepts, full forms, topics are more important. So when it comes to the orange economy, this is something, by the way, which also found mention in the economics survey. Okay, this is linked to the AVGC sector. Okay, it is not about a food product. It is about the AVGC sector: animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics. Okay, so very important to know the meaning of the word orange economy. There is a proposal to set up a new NID or a National Institute of Design. Next, there is a proposal on establishment of 5 university townships across the country. If we carry on our summary, there is a promise to set up a girls' hostel in every district of the country. I'm not sure if that's a very tall goal, but perhaps they mean one government girls' hostel in each district. Okay. Next, there is a proposal to set up a National Institute of Hospitality. So this is linked to the hotel management branch. Okay. Next, on tourism, something very important, right? On tourism, we have this National Institute of Hospitality. I say it is linked to hotel management, but it encompasses much more than that, right? It uses a broader word, which is hospitality, which does not just relate to hotel management. Second is the proposal to establish a national destination digital knowledge grid, which essentially sounds like a digital guide to the important tourist sites across the country. And on that note, what ma'am mentioned is going to be very significant, which relates to IBCA, International Big Cats Alliance. Right? So this year in 2026, you are going to have the first global Big Cat Summit. This is going to be very important. As you know, CLAT continues to ask about one global summit at least every year. So it is possible that this year it might be the Global Big Cat Summit, especially since India is hosting it. Finally, under the Khelo India scheme, there is a proposal to launch a new mission, essentially on talent development for sports persons. So that is a summary of the important proposals when it comes to the second Kartavya, which centers on human potential.
Now coming to the news pieces regarding the same. So this particular article also talks about everything that we just talked about, that it says that allocation to education ministry has now seen an increase of 14.21%. All right. Now with respect to this, just keep in mind that the government has an entire aim that under the new education policy, which completed 5 years last year, that it was launched in 2020, the government said that the government wants to increase the expenditure in the education sector to around 6% of the GDP. All right. So allocation has increased to so much. The government has aligned specific budgets for the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, for Kendra Vidyalaya Sangathan, and also the government has announced to establish 5 university townships. All right, which is going to foster and bring in the government to realization the government's vision of transforming education to employment opportunities. All right, so here this gives you an ideation of establishing 5 university townships near major industrial and logistic corridors, setting up of girls hostels in each district, promoting or encouraging more and more girl participation in STEM education, and then naturally resulting or making this nexus successful of education to employment. All right, then also talks about alignment to Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, Atal Tinkering Labs, PM Poshan scheme, talks about content creator labs. All right, and then naturally giving a major boost to the orange sector along with establishment of National Institute for Design. Okay, so this is everything in terms of education sphere that the government is going to do. And naturally when we talk about education, we align education to employment as well. So education and employment, they always go hand in hand. So whenever we say that health and education form the 2 pillars of human capital development in the country, I imply education is inclusive of employment. Okay, because naturally you need education to be employed, right? Okay, then coming to the next one, this simply gives you a basic understanding as to how artificial intelligence is presently helping or aiding in aiding and whatever are the pros and cons of the advancements in artificial intelligence on the services and the employment sector. All right, so this just simply gives you a basic understanding as to why the government is aligning education with employment. Okay, all right, then again the government has laid much emphasis on the care system. Now care system is a very holistic and a very broad term which is inclusive in medical hub development. All right, now medical facilities, if you look at it, simply imply that we must have more hospitals, more hospital based infrastructure, beds, and whatever machineries that are required in terms of delivering medical facilities. But when we look at the care system, it is inclusive of not only the infrastructure which is provided to provide better health, which is required to provide better health facilities, but also the human capital that is required. All right, so care system is inclusive of all of this. So it seeks to establish institutions for allied health professionals, or AHP, which will be upgraded, and new centers to be established in private and government sector to train 1 lakh professionals over the next 5 years. And this particular training will be along 10 selected disciplines, which include optometry, radiology, anesthesia, OT technology, etc. Then coming to the next one, which talks about development of 5 university townships as well as girls hostels. All right. So here the government seeks to develop 5 university townships, and these townships will be developed around major industrial clusters, so that, you know, whatever these universities are being established for, and mostly the vision of these universities, the curriculum and academics and everything that the university seeks to provide, aligns with the industrial unit that is maybe available or established just next to this particular industry, just next to this university, just to, you know, make a very smooth transition from education to employment. And then again, major focus this year has been on manufacturing, so this is going to aid the same as well. And girls hostel in each district simply implies that, you know, girl education should be promoted, should be given a major push as well. Then coming to the third kartavya, because the name itself suggests sabka saath sabka vikas, so naturally sabka saath sabka vikas simply implies a very inclusive form of development. So when we talk about inclusive form, it is in this inclusive form only that the government has included farmer, where the first kartavya solely gave more importance and weightage to the manufacturing sector. All right. Last year, if we looked at the budget last year's budget did give a special recognition to Annadata in itself, but this year Annadata are a part of the third kartavya itself. All right. So one entire kartavya has been dedicated to manufacturing sector this year. A major, you know, shift in the government's policy structure from the farm sector development that the government usually undertakes. All right. So the government has talked about increasing farmer incomes. The government has talked about empowering the Divyangjans, or the physically disabled people, empowering the vulnerable. Now, vulnerable here, the government has outlined vulnerable as the weaker sections. All right. The weaker sections also inclusive of people who can't maybe avail services on their own. And for this, they've talked about establishing NIMHANS, which is mental health in institutions. Then Purvodaya Northeastern states. The Purvodaya Northeast, so everybody knows the Seven Sisters. Purvodaya is the eastern coast of India, states in the eastern part of India, like Odisha and West Bengal, Jharkhand, etc. All right. So our third kartavya aligns with an inclusive and holistic development. Okay. Looking more into details of it, the third kartavya talks about increasing farmer incomes, empowering the Divyangjans, the physically disabled, the vulnerables, and by empowering vulnerable, the government has given a major emphasis on mental health, and also focus on Purvodaya states as well as the northeastern regions, which are considered as the most economically backward, most difficult ones in terms of undertaking development of infrastructure. All right. Increasing farmer income, again a very holistic approach through emphasis on fisheries, animal husbandry, high value agriculture, in the sense that agriculture or agricultural areas which will aid or bring in more income. All right. And with this, they have given laid a major emphasis on coconuts this year, outlining and specifically mentioning Kerala here, over which the ministers in Kerala actually got angry also, that this was the only thing for which they mentioned Kerala. Otherwise, Kerala has nowhere been mentioned in the entire budget. All right. And then also to further aid agriculture, the budget also outlines an initiative known as Bharat Vistar. Vistar, again, an abbreviation which is in its entirety known as virtually integrated system to access agricultural resources. And this again the government draws inspiration from the previous multilingual AI portals that the government has been outlining. So Bharat Vistar is actually a multilingual AI tool under which the government seeks to streamline and bring under a single window everything that the government is providing in terms of agricultural facilities. Then to provide employment opportunities to women, the government has talked about establishing of she marts for rural women. She here translates to self-help entrepreneur marts to help rural women establish their small industries, etc. Again, aligned with the manufacturing vision. Okay. All right. Then moving forward, to empower Divyangjan, the government has talked about establishing a Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana. Kaushal means skill development. The government has a program of Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana launched in 2015. So under that Kaushal Vikas Yojana program also, the government sought to provide skill development opportunities to physically disabled people. Along similar lines, they are doing this also. And then Divyang Sahara Yojana, where the government is, trying to do away with the disabilities, maybe through provision of artificial limbs manufacturing corporation, of giving aid to manufacturing units which undertake manufacture of artificial limbs, etc. All right. Then vulnerable sectors have also been highlighted through providing better mental health facilities. And to undertake this, the government has talked about establishing Nimhans 2. All right. And also to upgrade the and Nimhans 2 will be undertaken in northern India somewhere. They've just proposed it. As of now, this mental health institute we have in Bangalore, which is the only mental health institute in the country at such a large scale. A Nimhans 2 will be established in North India now. And also we have 2 national mental health institutes in Ranchi and Tezpur. Ranchi in Jharkhand, Tezpur is in Assam. So they seek to develop these 2 institutions. Then for Purvoday states and northeastern Indian states, they talk about integrated East Coast Industrial Corridor development and through creation of 5 tourism destinations. Also talks about development of Buddhist sites in Northeast region. All right. Specifically, not laying emphasis on the Buddhist cultures of Theravada and Mahayana, that is Mahayana sects and traditions that are found in the Northeast Indian regions. All right. Now, quickly coming to the the articles that were available for this. So they talk about undertaking special development of coconut, cocoa, and sandalwood, all of which are mostly, found in southern states. Also, seeks to undertake missions, bring about reality, bring about more investments in national cotton technology mission on pulses, etc. Okay. So major emphasis has been laid on coconut, and they've talked about establishing a coconut promotion scheme. And also they've outlined that Kerala is the largest producer of coconut in the country and also in the world. India is the largest producer of coconut. Then to promote Buddhism, Buddhist culture, the government talks about establishing Buddhist circuits in the sense outlining tourism spots for Buddhism. And for this, the government is also undertaking a pilot scheme for bringing about skill development of 10,000 guides in 20 iconic tourist sites, also aligning with development of hospitality in India. Then the government talks about establishment of national destination digital knowledge grid, as well as talks about developing into cultural heritage regions around 15 archaeological sites, most of whom are Harappa sites like Dholavira, Lothal, Rakhi Gadi, etc. And talks about establishment of tourism trails like mountain trekking trails in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir, and as well as in southern India. Also talks about development of turtle nesting trails like in Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and bird watching trails in Karnataka, etc. Then establishment of Nimhans 2 in North India and redevelopment of 2 institutions in Tezpur and Ranchi. Buddhist circuits to be undertaken, where they are also talking about development of these tourism sectors, aligning the theme of Buddhism. National Institute of Hospitality to be established, National Destination Digital Knowledge Grid to be established, a pilot scheme to upskill 10,000 guides, 15 archaeological sites to be increased, and also the government is talking about or has given a proposal to reduce the tax collected at source rate or the TCS rate on the sale of overseas tour package, that is to promote international tourism in the country. The government has also, cut down the tax collected as source in case you're taking an international trip from the current 5% and 20% to around 2%. All right. Okay. Then for promotion of women empowerment, the government seeks to undertake she marts in rural areas. She is self-help entrepreneur marts, where rural women will be given the opportunity to undertake entrepreneurship, and also seeks to promote development of Bharat Vistar. Bharat Vistar is a multilingual AI tool which seeks to provide all agriculture related initiatives, and it seeks to integrate AgriStack portals and ICAR package on agricultural practices with AI system. And this is similar to the previously undertaking multilingual AI generated linguistic initiatives of the government like Bharat AI Mission and Bashini. Okay. Then marginal hike for agricultural leaves have been promoted again through the same initiative of Bharat Vistar. Then coming to the next bit, which talks about the 16th Finance Commission report. So the 16th Finance Commission was created in the year 2023. The chairperson of the Finance Commission is Arvind Panagria. The Finance Commission draws inspiration from Article 280 of the Constitution. This particular Finance Commission submitted its report last year, and the Finance Commission gives recommendation with respect to devolution of funds from the central government to the states in the country. All right. So the Finance Commission submitted its report last year in 2025 for the next 5-year period, that is from 2026 to 2031. All right, and it talks about the various money that is supposed to be devolved from the center to different states. Then the government has also outlined its fiscal deficit, which the government says last year it was estimated to be 4.4% of the GDP. This year the government has aligned its fiscal deficit to be 4.3% of the GDP. All right. Then budget estimates of 2026-27, they've said that the non-debt receipts and total expenditure are estimated to be 36.5 lakh crores and 53.5 lakh crores respectively. All right. So this is one information that you have to keep in mind, and this is one information that you have to keep in mind. All right. And the 16th Finance Commission naturally. Okay. So part A gives us a brief about all of this information which you have to keep in mind. So like I told you, the 16th Finance Commission constituted under Article 280 of the Constitution, meaning that it is a constitutional body. Current chairperson Arvind Panagria. The first chairperson was K.C. Nyogi. 16th Finance Commission submitted its report in 2025 for the next 5 years from 2026 to 2031. Fiscal deficit target for last year was 4.4. This year it is 4.3%. Budget estimates, expenditure was 53.5 lakh crore. Non-debt receipts 36.5 lakh crores. Gross market borrowings have been 17.2 lakh crores. Okay. Then coming to the news pieces relating to the budget information. Here, this year, with respect to the devolution of budgets, mostly every year the trend that was seen was that the central government would devolve more money to the northern states. But this year, the southern states have seen more devolution of money. Okay, so states devolution is at 41%. All right, this simply gives you the same information that this year the government is aiming for a 4.3% of fiscal deficit. The meaning of fiscal deficit I've already outlined. Here they've again talked about in this particular article that the 16th Finance Commission has outlined more money that has to be devolved to the southern states as compared to the northern states. That was the basic trend. Now this particular commission, the 16th Finance Commission, has undertaken this devolution of money on 6 new criteria. All right, so you have to keep in mind these criteria. Please take a note of it. You can pause the video to do so. Now the 6 criteria, one is population, which has a total weight of 17.5. Then demographic performance. Okay, demographic performance in the sense that the basic population structure, occupation structure, male female ratio, number of percentage of people employed, etc. So demographic performance has a total of 10% share. Then area of the state, that is larger state, smaller state, again 10% share. Then forest, of the percentage forest on the state, again 10% share. Then per capita GS, that is gross state domestic product, 42.5%. And then contributions to the national GDP, contribution to the GDP has a total share of 10%. All right. So these are the 6 criteria on which or how the devolution of money is to be undertaken. So in all of these 6 criteria, naturally the southern states are doing well. That is why more money this year is being devolved to the southern states. All right. The article also gives you the previous or the erstwhile criteria that was followed till the 15th Finance Commission. All right. So do keep in mind these 6 criteria and also the total percentage share that is aligned to each. Okay. Then coming to the next piece of news, again the debt to GDP ratio, only the figure is important, please keep in mind, has been targeted at 55.6%. All right, and nominal GDP growth is considered to be believed to be around 10%. Okay, we will not get into the details of it. Only this much number is what you have to keep in mind. Also, the 16th Finance Commission outlined or recommended a certain chunk of money that has to be given to the local bodies, that is panchayats specifically, in the 16th Finance Commission's report. Okay. All right. Then coming to the direct tax.
All right. So we are painstakingly through part 1 of the union budget. The good news for us is that part B in reality is long, but I have consolidated all of part B to what you see on your screen. Okay. Number 1, the new Income Tax Act, which was passed in 2025, will come into effect from the coming financial year on the 1st of April 2026. So this is something absolutely to keep in mind. This is going to come up in the month of April. So it's almost a preview. We are going to do a deep dive into it once it comes into force. All right. Next, this is a very interesting piece. What it does is it proposes a tax holiday till the year 2047. To whom? To any foreign company which provides cloud services to customers globally by utilizing data center services from India. Okay. Why I find this intriguing is because of the long tax holiday, right? It's 2026. So it's almost a 21-year tax holiday that has been proposed by the union government. Okay. Next, one more important one is relating to nuclear power. Ma'am is going to take it up in detail in a moment, but you should relate this to the Shanti Bill, right? Another acronym which came up in the winter session, which just concluded in the month of January. So these are the important details when it comes to part B of the union budget. There is one more thing, I haven't put it here, but that is relating to reduction of the TCS or tax collected at source when you are paying for education or medical purposes, right? So for instance, my sister lives and studies in the US. So whenever money is transferred from India to her for the payment of fees, right, there is a certain percentage that has to be kept over as tax collected at source. So there has been some benefit that has been granted by the union budget this year. Okay, so that's the summary. Over to ma'am for a deep dive into the article.
Okay. Now, for this, you only have to keep in mind that the new Income Tax Act that was proposed or brought into existence last year, the government is saying that it will be implemented from 1st of April 2026. All right. So the date is important. Then tax holiday, as sir just told you all, that anybody who is going to invest in the country in terms of setting data hubs or data institutes, they will be data centers. Basically, they will be given absolute exemption from any tax till 2047. All right. Then another talk about the Shanti bill, which I just took up a few slides back. So the government has said that in order to promote more and more inputs into the development or harnessing of nuclear energy in the country, the government has also said that all those private players who are going to come into harnessing or are going to take up nuclear power projects will be given a zero naturally, if they are going to set up industries or nuclear power plants, they will have to bring in certain raw materials, imports, etc. from outside. So these nuclear power sectors under the Shanti bill, giving more leverage to the private sectors to jump in, will be met with zero customs duty. So this also just gives you a basic idea into the country's entire goal of developing or harnessing 100 gigawatt of nuclear energy by 2047. Okay. Then coming to the next one, talks about giving tax holidays, that is absolute exemption on taxation to any country or any person from outside India who is willing to set up data centers in the country. And then again, the same thing as sir told you, that a tax collected at source is now down to 2% in case any money for education fees is being sent abroad. All right. Then certain miscellaneous things which were not mentioned in the budget speech directly. So after Operation Sindoor, a massive allocation has been made to the defense sector, and the defense sector has been allocated the maximum share from the budget this year. Also 15% hike from last year. So do keep in mind that a 15% overall hike in the defense sector, and the Ministry of Defense has been allocated the maximum budget this year. The same article continued from two different newspapers. Again, a basic insight into the defense allocation, and the government. This article actually draws we feel that the government is putting in so much of money in the defense sector, etc., and we feel that it is too much given the developing stature of the country. But the article actually says that we feel that it is too much. It is actually not when we compare it with other countries like US, compare it with China, Pakistan, etc. So it is a good article. Please go through this one. Then also the government has outlined or allocated around 6,000 crore for the census exercise. So the census exercise for the year 2021 is set to begin in 2026, and we'll get the entire full-fledged census data in 2027. The census exercise is very, very important this year. This exercise has two major specialities. It is going to be the first ever digital census in the country, and also this census will be inclusive of socio-economic caste census as well. All right, so much budget has been allocated to it. Then no NPR notification yet, that is no notification for National Population Register, which the government took for the last time in 1951, and since then no NPR updation has been undertaken, although it was basically somehow drawn through various inferences that the government seeks to undertake National Population Register updation next year along with the census exercise, but no formal notification for it has been undertaken. But the government has outlined budgetary funds for the NPR as well. So naturally, this is like a basic affirmation that NPR will be undertaken. All right. Then these articles from different newspapers, the Indian Express and the Hindu, also talk about that not mentioned in the budget speech, but 95,000 crore rupees have been allocated to Manrega, or the now renamed as BBG Ram G. Okay. So Viksit Bharat Guarantee Rozgar Evam Ajivika Mission Grameen, they have mentioned they have allocated 95,000 crore rupees to the same. And what you have to keep in mind about this, I've discussed it a few days back in one of the newspaper analysis, that this particular scheme is an improvement on Manrega. They've renamed it. They've increased the number of guaranteed days from 100 to 125. They've changed the funding structure. Manrega being a central sector scheme, now BBG Ramji being a centrally sponsored scheme, a sharing of funds between the central government and the state. Okay. Then again, although last year there was a basic dip in the sense less spending was undertaken under the Jal Jeevan Mission, this year they've aligned more funds to the Jal Jeevan Mission. The Jal Jeevan Mission was launched in 2019 under Ministry of Jal Shakti. The Minister of Jal Shakti being C.R. Patil. 2019 till 2024, it was a 5-year scheme, had two basic agendas. The agendas being, number one, to provide functional household tap connection to all rural households, and the second one is that each functional household must provide 55 liters per capita water per day. All right. The scheme couldn't undertake or meet its 100% target, although no new allocations were made in the budget of 2024, later 2025, but in the July of 2025, the scheme was extended for another 3 years till 2028 for undertaking 100% coverage of rural households. Okay. Then also just a small piece of news, but do keep in mind, because Ladakh has been under fire of late because of all the protests for inclusion in Schedule 6 of the Constitution. So Jammu and Kashmir was not allocated as much budget, but Ladakh was allocated a budget which is 27% higher than the last year. All right. Then also so much of money, 3,400 crores have been allocated to two schemes which are for the 6 minorities. The 6 minorities here simply imply the religious minorities. So Hindu community or Hinduism is the largest religion, is the religious majority in the country, and after that you have 6 religious minorities, the Muslims being the largest religious minority. Then we have Sikh, Christians, Parsis, Jains and Buddhists in the country. All right. So Ministry of Minority Affairs has been aligned or allocated a total of 3,400 crore of rupees, and much money has been awarded to the Qawmi Waqf boards. All right. So Waqf alignment has been given money this year. Now no allocation was made to the Chabahar port. Last year, US government did extend a 6-month waiver to India to undertake or continue its construction of the Chabahar port in Iran. But now this year's budget has not seen any new fund allocation to the Chabahar port. Naturally, it is believed that this no allocation has been undertaken because of threats from US in terms of implementing or imposing more tariffs on India. So we already are overburdened with tariffs, with a 25% of reciprocal tariff of India on India, 25% additional tariff for buying Russian oils. Then a few days back, US President had also made this entire announcement saying that additional 25% tariffs will be imposed on countries who are doing any sort of trade with Iran. So again, India was under fire regarding the same. But then no new tariff as of now has been imposed, but a threat was issued. All right. And because no tariff was imposed there, US President did come out with his wonderful statement saying that India is now going to resume buying oil from Venezuela, which will help India to root out its oil purchases from Russia as well as from Iran. Okay. So this was the budget session for you all. A very, very comprehensive session with everything that you have to keep in mind with respect to the budget and the innumerable articles which were on various allocations, various sectors, initiatives that were undertaken, outlined in the budget for you all today. So I hope it was enlightening, and I hope we were able to make budget learning and remembering easy for you all today. Okay, then I'll see you all tomorrow with our Roznama and more, in all probability, more analytical articles on the budget from yesterday. Okay, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.